So is record collecting really that bad for the environment? Some people think so. More on that coming up next.
Channel 33 RPM, yeah, 33 RPM. Channel 33 RPM, yeah, Vinyl Gear and more.
Hi, my name is Frank. Welcome back to Sundays on Channel 33 RPM, your channel for vinyl, gear, and more. Let's get right into today's episode. This is a trend I've noticed building now for maybe the last 6 months to the last year, and it's been really bugging me, and that's the argument that music fans should be streaming music rather than buying physical media like vinyl. And why, you ask? And that's because, according to some people, buying physical media, including records, is wasteful and bad for the environment. Let's start with this February 2018 article I found on Vice.com with the headline, "This is how bad your vinyl obsession is for the world." In the article, Andy Stevens, Associate Director of Corporate Carbon Footprint Measuring Company Carbon Trust, and that's a mouthful, he's quoted as saying this: "There are environmental impacts related to anywhere energy is used. This includes the extraction of crude oil from the ground, refining it, the subsequent processing of that refined oil into PVC, then using PVC to manufacture a vinyl record." Now, he goes on to say even more. He says there are also impacts from packaging, which includes chopping down trees, processing them into pulp, turning that pulp into cardboard sleeves alongside the production of inks and printing. And he says there's transport and logistics between all these separate stages, plus the carbon emissions from energy used every time the record is played. Okay, that's one article that bugged me. I'll come back to that. Here's another one I found called Just Go Digital, the environmental case against the physical sale of music. Now, this is from what I assume is a personal blog from a fellow named Brian Bridges. I think it's Brian, it's spelled kind of different. Anyway, Brian writes, "If global warming and the size of one's carbon footprint are important enough to sacrifice for, then it is time to move on from the physical sales of music altogether. No vinyl LPs, CDs, nor cassettes. It's easy, just go digital. At the end of the day, digital music is the only environmentally responsible way to buy and sell music." Now remember, guys, this is not me saying this. This is his blog from this guy, Brian. He also says, he noted of the three formats, records, tapes, and CDs, vinyl LPs are by far and away the most environmentally hazardous. I've never heard records referred to as hazardous, but there you go. He concludes by saying, "Going digital is an easy sacrifice to make for the environment. Just do it. Just go digital," he writes. Again, this is not me. This is this article I'm quoting from. Now, it seems Brian has forgotten, of course, that CDs are digital in his argument. I think he means streaming, but I will overlook that for now. Now, before anyone makes this assumption about where I may stand on the whole issue of environmentalism, I would have to say, personally, I am pretty middle of the road. I drive a gas guzzler, 2007 Nissan Xterra. However, at home we recycle beverage containers, cardboard, newsprint, all that sort of stuff. So I figure I'm a pretty regular Canadian guy with a family who recycles when we can. So I'm not an environmental maniac, a greeniac, nor am I someone who is at the opposite end of the spectrum. Okay, I got that out of the way. So as a middle of the road kind of guy, I think these attacks on physical media, and in particular records, are completely misguided. First of all, these two articles I quoted from completely forget to talk about the environmental impact of streaming music. And yes, there is an environmental impact that comes from streaming music. This is a point a few of you made when I posted about this topic on the Channel 33 RPM Facebook group recently. 33er Mark Poppin wrote, "Do you know how much power the Spotify servers are sucking? Do you know what these servers are made of?" I don't have those answers, but I do assume that these servers suck up a lot of power, and I know they generate a lot of heat, which to me means that they're using a lot of power, and I'm assuming they're made out of materials that are probably equally bad for the environment, plastics and whatnot. And none of that is good for the environment. Secondly, another point often forgotten about, or at least not mentioned by these two articles, is that in some ways, record collecting, I think, is actually good for the environment. And that is because many of us, by buying used records and supporting the secondary market for vinyl, are really diverting a lot of material from the garbage dump. Half these records behind me are used records. In fact, when you're buying a used record, I think you're actually recycling and you're reusing, and you are doing the opposite of promoting waste. You are being an environmental steward in some way, whether we really realize it or not. This is a similar point some of you made on the Channel 33 RPM Facebook group. For example, Paul Kane wrote, the used record and gear market keeps millions of pounds of materials out of landfills every year. And Edwin wrote, my attitude about vinyl records and the environment is that, well, it uses resources to make them. They are also something that can be used, reused, passed down, and resold. I totally agree. That's exactly what I just said. Edwin goes on to say, well, I also feel the way they are being produced needs to be taken into account. That is definitely true. Vinyl records are not intended to be used a few times and disposed of like fast fashion. I think Paul and Edwin absolutely nailed it with those comments. Now, I want to talk about one more article from a publication called The Ecologist. Now, the headline for this story, I'll put it up here, says, setting the record straight, is streaming greener than vinyl? Now, this is exactly what we were talking about. I found the conclusion from this particular story very interesting. The article notes the vinyl versus streaming comparison is not easy, as the infrastructure required for each is quite different and information is scarce. Now, the article notes that when a variety of factors are taken into account, including the cost of production, playback equipment, server storage, how many times you listen and re-listen to records, it concludes that the environmental impact of vinyl and streaming are pretty much neck and neck. So there you go. Of course, there's an environmental impact from using PVC and plastics to produce records, but there also is definitely an impact from streaming. So as I said, there we go. Streaming, buying records, what the heck, they both have their environmental consequences. So what do we do about this as record collectors and as music fans? Now, personally, I say live and let live. Spin your tunes, enjoy the music, and really, we have a lot bigger things, I think, to worry about. Okay, guys, what do you think? This is a mouthful, not an issue I would typically tackle on this channel, but as I said, it's been bugging me in this small group of people that seems to be attacking record collectors more and more often. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you enjoyed today's episode, remember to leave a quick like, and if you haven't subscribed yet, click this button wherever it may be and you will never miss another episode again. I hope you have a fantastic week. I'll see you all again really soon, 33ers. Until then, keep on spinning.